Cool. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for attending the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we cover business growth, strategy, and execution. I'm Howie, and I'm joined by Beastmode. Hey, man.
Hey, Howie. How are you, my man? It's so great to speak with you. I'm excited for today's topic about returning back to work.
I am as well. I'm happy that we're even able to talk, phrase that out of our mouth, return to work. That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, some of us haven't left work. It's just work's been a little different, and so it may not resonate with everybody, but it is a big topic out there as things are beginning to at least to be discussed on being opened up. And so we wanted to be preliminary and just throw a few thoughts out there. And we did have an idea of, bringing some of this content onto more of a documentation type for people to review later. So we're going to try to get that out a little later this week.
Yeah, I think we're going to do a 1 to 2 page PDF that we'll probably post on social and stuff. So guys, look out for that for sure. Again, we're not the end all be all of return to work experts, but we put some thought to it, and I'm sure it'll inspire, 2 or 3 things that may be helpful to y'all.
Of course. And so topic number 1 that you wanted to come from, I'll go ahead and get things started off.
Sure, good.
Is that from a manager standpoint, we wanted to come out and say, is your workplace safe and sanitized in preparation to return to work as a new normal? So what's your thoughts jumping off on that point?
Yeah, as a manager, I really understand that the way that we used to do business didn't really prevent, viral infection, right? And we've had office flu and things of that nature before, but obviously novel coronavirus is much more transmissible and somewhat more fatal as well than the flu. But this type of, viral awareness, germ awareness is going to be here to stay. So what can we do to make sure that we're not just doing business as usual when we return to work? What are some processes maybe? What are the topics from me? I actually talked to my managing director today, who I work for in the office, about return to work and some of the implications. Some of our, Beastmode and I had a planning call before this, and we talked about this, but we have some folks in our office that because we hire a certain type of expert, they're by nature not real young. And so we love them and we want to make sure that they're safe. And so we got to think about, returning to work isn't a return to normal, it's a return to a new normal. So as a manager, I have to put some plans in place and think about what that looks like.
Totally true. Yeah. And mainly because this whole thought process probably wasn't even there prior to, March 1st, whenever this really started blowing up in the US, and so there needs to be an SOP, in my mind, written and just say, hey, this isn't just a new protocol that we do, and whether it's every day after you leave your workstation, you got to wipe your own personal workstation now. We provide you all the supplies, but you need to do it. But there's obviously a preliminary response just to get employees to come back. And part of that is, and from me, from the branding and from purpose, is you're doing it because you want to give your customers who are coming in the door, if you have customers, but you want to give your staff the peace and security that, hey, we're providing for you a safe place to come. Your home, which you've been in charge of, is safe, but now we're going to give you another safe place. You're doing it for them. It's not for you. It's not for the business. It's not for them. It's for the people who are coming in.
Beautiful. So that's managers. Managers need to think about return to work from a planning standpoint. Now, you had a really good topic in our planning session in Beastmode about the employee side of that. When they're asked to come back to work, you had some thoughts around that. So maybe, share those.
Yeah. So again, I need, as a supervisor, a manager, and a person of leadership, I should be reaching out to my team right now and asking, do you intend to come back to work full time? Yeah, yes, we're going to have new processes. Yes, we're going to have things, but we still intend for you to come back into the office if that's your new protocol. Some industries may say, you're at home, you're doing well, stay home. Fantastic, but the individuals who are going to have to physically go back in the office, the management and leadership should be reaching out, finding out in advance, do you intend to come back and work in the office? Because again, the last thing you want to do is try to open up 100% capacity out of facility and have 50% of your workforce show up. And again, let's think about it. If you're a restaurant, okay, are my servers going to come back? Are my cooks going to come back? I'm a car dealership. Is my accountants, is my cashiers, is my salesmen, are they going to come back? And so I need to be thinking about this in advance. And again, depending upon your area, you may have 15 days. Some areas may have 60 days, but you should be doing the due diligence right now.
That's great. So staff planning and also planning my staffing. So I think that's a great approach that it wasn't on my radar at all. So outstanding job. You had another angle too, which is, what about the employee themselves? Once I ask my employee to come back, what are some of the implications of that in terms of, maybe you're going to be asked to come back and they don't have a workplace health and safety policy that's been updated, and there's not any new sanitizing equipment or processes at all. So what can you do? And this is kind of your idea earlier. Sure. What can you do as an employee in that moment where you realize that there's a gap and your management hasn't planned a proper return to work? What are some thoughts on that? And I'll share some too.
Yeah. So really the first initial thought is that we're suggesting this information to the leadership saying you should do it. I don't think there's going to be a vast portion of businesses who don't do it, who are just going to say, yep, hey, the government says that we're good to go. Our county says we're fine. Come back to work. You're required to come back to work. And they may not have a process. So you should still be diligent in your own accord and do your own due diligence and bring your own supplies to handle your own area. And again, maybe take the opportunity to say, hey, I value you. I value this opportunity to be here. You guys have invested in me and provide for me. Can I volunteer to work on a protocol to make us all safe? And because again, your leadership it may not be their forte, and they may not be listening to this podcast, but you could refer them to them.
Well, I can't believe someone would miss the podcast, but I think it could be for sure. No, I think you're right, spot on. I mean, Jordan B. Peterson says that opportunity exists where responsibility is abdicated. So when you as an employee, and maybe it's not just a return to work issue, but we talk on this podcast, we talk a lot about feedback, giving input, selling things internally, making a business case, making a difference, all those spectrum, many different ideas. Here's another opportunity, where you can, as Beastmode was mentioning, go ahead and volunteer to make a plan, create a low-cost plan that has very little cost or effort to the company, but that can help keep people safer and more confident. So absolutely, again, opportunity exists where responsibility is abdicated. So make a name, for yourself that you're a volunteer and you've got that positive attitude and you're the cheerful person who doesn't badmouth management, but comes in and says, hey, I'll raise my hand and I'm willing to help fill this need. And you don't want to make them look stupid, like, oh, you guys are bums, you didn't do any planning. That's not how you do it. You do it in a cheerful, kind way, and you offer to help and make a difference. And that'll be very well respected. And by the way, it's like I tell my sales team all the time, it actually doesn't matter if that works for you. If they don't take you up on it and they don't let you start a committee for workplace, viral safety or something, or whatever you want to call it, if they don't let you do that, you still win because you now showed you're the kind of person who would offer to volunteer and to help out. You literally win-win. You can't lose.
Yeah, we've talked about that numerous times. There's not a downside to bringing this up, to stepping up and volunteering, to being a contributor towards the overall process and not just a consumer. It's a big plus. So,
amen to that. But just as I'm putting myself in the shoes here, if I said, if I'm a manager of the kind of business where I do have traffic from customers, then confidence for me is a competitive differentiator that I will actually, by doing more to instill customer confidence, I will literally help my business grow and do better than my competition. So that's kind of an initial thought, and I'll let you speak to some more.
Yes, 100%. Your mindset should be, I'm going super hyper cleaning and, decontaminating And your focus isn't for me. I'm not doing it so I have a safe place to work. Although that is part of the reason why you're doing it to forefront, make yourself different than the 90% of other businesses that are not going to do it, and say, we've gone the extra mile for you, our customer, for you, our client, for you. We're doing it for you. Are you a direct beneficiary? Yes, but it's the same thing when that we've talked about in this environment of you're speaking directly to what hits home, to the uncertainty that'll still be there even after, the certain counties or governments release individuals. You're speaking to that and saying, we know you're uncertain, we know you're uneasy, but you know what? They've only asked us to do this. We've done 3 times more than that because we value you and we value your family. We value your business. And so we want to make sure you have that. You're speaking directly to them.
Yep. Yeah. Customer confidence, a small investment in customer confidence will yield a multiple in terms of your sales. A little bit in the short term, I think a lot more in the mid and long term, but I think some initially as well. So confidence actually, customer confidence in your health environment actually becomes something that you can use in marketing and sales and in customer service.
And this is something that I know that I've been talking about for the last several weeks. This is something that you can take advantage of right now. That's going to be a key differentiator. It's going to be a huge shift because if you put 2 fast food restaurants right next to each other, one does it and the other one does do it, then the one that does do it is going to demolish the one right next to it. And it doesn't matter when the other one does it. They could do it the next day, but the fact that this person did it first, you'll never gain my business again. The person who did it second, And so this is one of these things that you can't miss the mark. You can't be late, because once you're late, then there's already that thought in there. I remember, it took 2 weeks. It took a public outcry before they decontaminated. You don't want that. So you want to be preemptive. If there's any time to be preemptive, it's on this topic right here anymore.
Yeah,
next point.
Okay. Next point is, drum roll, messaging. We kind of talked about messaging though a little bit, but what else you're a good branding guy. What are some of the opportunities in messaging?
So the opportunities that I've really seen and I've really been having discussions about is there's really 2 waves. You get the people who are gonna, doesn't matter what the government says, I'm gonna come out of my home, I'm gonna do whatever I want. Those people aren't the ones you're really marketing to, because the moment a restaurant opens, things like that, they're gonna come right back in. They're gonna take their mask off and things like that. But what we want to do is we want to speak to the security that people have found in their home, because it hasn't been negative. People have enjoyed the new time at home with their families. They've enjoyed personal time and enjoyed deliveries and new kind of lifestyle. So we need to call them out of that lifestyle and say that environment is now here too. So again, we're calling out. You've enjoyed having dinner at home with your family. Come enjoy that same type of lifestyle here. We can provide that for you. And it's clean and it's sanitary and it's just, you've been cooped up, But at the end of the day, we're providing that peace and security that you have in your home. Because I'm in control of my home, Yeah. I have security over my home. If I want something cleaned, I'll just clean it and I'll spend an hour doing it if I want to do it. So I want to know that somebody's taking that initiative on the front end.
Yeah, I really, really like it. So the branding and the messaging around this is actually, if you're, instead of just cleaning and, you don't get any credit for it. You ought to be, if you're going to transform your process, for heaven's sakes, make it a competitive differentiator.
Yes. You need to be telling everybody about it.
Everything you just said, it's funny how you are a good branding guy. I was sitting there picturing everything you said. I'm sitting there picturing a clean kitchen in the back, clean tables, social distance tables. I'm picturing, starchy waiter. I'm literally kind of living what you're saying. So I think a consumer would appreciate the ability to get out of that. I would love to go to sit down at Papados with my kids and with my wife right now. I can't do that. It's the first place I'm going to go, believe me.
But guess what? Speak to that circumstance.
Yeah.
What if you walk into Papados and the waiter is just messy and it's dirty? Now what happens is it doesn't matter what they do. So there's a reset to where we're going to have these opportunities to basically create a new first date with our clients, a new first date with our customers.
That's great.
And we got to speak to that. Now, again, I can't beat this drum loud enough. I'm not saying I am clean or we are clean or my staff is clean, because that doesn't speak to my need. My need to get me out of the house isn't you being clean. It's I've prepared an area for you that this area is clean. Now I should assume that me as a waiter or at a movie theater or whatever, that I'm clean. But what I need to speak to is I need to speak that I prepared an area for you and your family that's going to provide the same peace and security that you have at your house. Otherwise, I'm going to miss the mark.
I like it. That's great. It's beautiful. No, I think you're making a big difference right there. We really need to promote this podcast, because we're getting very crunchy on tactics. We need to push this out to the friends and family network and beyond for sure. Love everything you just said. I'll kind of start on this one and then you can dive in. I think part of it is, from an office health practice and process standpoint, I mean, it's simple things like it used to be manly, let's say, right? The tough guy would come in with the flu and the fever and even though none of us want to get sick, we did sort of kind of appreciate that he had a good work ethic, right? Not anymore. Like that's not in our handbook anymore, right? That's not even in our culture anymore. So I think health practices and process should be developed to reduce the spread of viruses, not just the novel coronavirus, but also influenza. I mean, that kills, more people than a lot of things does already. The flu does. So I think creating some processes and some cultural things where it's not cool to come in with a bad cough, guys. It's not cool to come in when your nose is running like a faucet and it's green and you obviously have an infection. I mean, that's not cool.
That employee culture, that environment's got to shift to where we give people the leeway, we give people the flexibility. And in doing so, we need to be prepared by saying, I've already read articles that they're already projecting saying this is going to wave off, but then be looking for it again in September and October to come back twice as hard.
Second wave. Yep.
And so, so some of these processes we're having them in place, but some of it is, if we haven't perfected the work from home, we need to still be maintaining diligence on that, because it's a very real thing that could happen again. So,
it meant a lot to me today when I talked to my managing director where I work, that he said, because I told him about how, the people that we love that work for us that are, this not a super young crowd because they're just decades experts in these fields and this technical thing that we do. But he said, even for the younger ones in my age range or less, because I have almost all millennials on my team, actually, they still have loved ones and parents that are in that bracket that are riskier. So it is a compassionate thing. So creating an employee health process, documenting that, training that, and that kind of goes training, so what, as a manager, again, this goes to the manager, but again, if there's no manager doing anything, then you can still volunteer like we talked about earlier. But what training should be provided? I mean, it's training that gives me air cover. I used to have to I know a guy, he's actually retired now, but he used to brag that he never missed a day of school and literally would come to work with the flu, right? And that was he was really proud of that. And I get it as the macho. I mean, I sort of get that. It doesn't mean he's right. I'm just saying I understand it. Because we're all knuckleheads to, the ladies know that already. So, but how do I make the training and the culture kind of match? And I have certain things that we say. And the things that we say is, if you're coughing, even hourly, we want you to really consider going home. If you have a fever, don't think about coming in, and just having certain processes. If you feel good enough, you want to work from home, hey, good on you. You don't have to burn any time off, but also be safe with that as well. But I don't think you and I have to, on this podcast, become a training expert, but I'm sure you have a couple of thoughts on that aspect.
Yeah, I think we've touched on this particular aspect in two other podcasts, which we talked about feedback in episode 2, and we talked about empathy several times. So we're basically, we can create a culture and say, hey, we're open for feedback, and and yes, we're going to be open to receive unwarranted feedback. Fantastic. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to ask for feedback maybe every week. Hey, I'm not going to sit here and take everybody's temperature when they walk in the door, but you know what? I will ask. I'm having trouble sleeping, and, get into and have empathy, and maybe start asking questions along the lines of, hey, I know that you're feeling okay. What about your family? Do you know anybody? Is this taking a toll on you? Would working from home today, I know it's not you personally, but would it just give you a little bit more of a de-stress? That way, maybe you don't go out into an environment to, where you may put yourself to where you're more at risk. You know what I'm saying? To where
I think if you talk to me that way as an employer, I would never leave.
Yeah,
what I mean is
and I would
that's
feel
such a
comfortable to share.
compassionate thing. Yeah.
I would feel so confident, and I would come to you and say, oh my gosh, Howie, I feel so terrible, and I don't want to miss, and I do want to be there, but I want to be preemptive, and I tell you, but I know that I'm going to go home and I'm going to work so hard, and I'm going to take a nap midday, but then I'm going to get up and I'm going to work again because I just want to do it. And it creates that environment. And again,
That's great. I love it.
for me as leadership, all it takes is every week just checking in with my staff and just saying, hey, if you ever want to tell me something, come do it. But then at the same end of the perspective, be able to share and say, how's your family? Do you have anybody extended, maybe at your church or from high school that's dealing with this, and be able to reach into their lives at that moment. Yeah.
Some of this stuff's pretty basic, but literally, what if every single room in your office had a hand sanitization station where it was some nice quality good stuff that you can just go pump and kind of when you're walking by, do that. What about on your make it a part of your standard employee kit, personal some nice smelling good hand sanitizer stuff that people wouldn't be annoyed by at all. What about that's part of a standard employee kit now. What about making sure that you audit the type of soap that you use to make sure it is antibacterial in your bathrooms? What about maybe especially during the winter season that you do maybe even issue some fun face masks. I've seen some fun ones that have patterns on them, like a gorilla mouth or a camo or a pink, different ones. Maybe we do issue those as a way, and they get to pick them and all that. We make it fun for them. But maybe those are some things in terms of office equipment and standard issue things that will, even if it makes a 10% difference, I'll take it, especially 10% for not a lot of money. A couple of other ideas that I've had along these, I've actually given this some thought over the past few days, as you and I talked about. There are some types of air purifiers that actually do capture viruses, and they'll recycle all their air in a room within 20 minutes, the whole room, all the air volume. And so it might be the case that you would have less, sick, employees if you had those types of air filtration systems on-prem. Other options, I know that 3M has some very high-end inserts for your HVAC that do catch, very fine, I think even to the level of viruses. I'm not sure about that, but I have seen things like electrostatic air filters and stuff. So I think just doing a little bit of due diligence about is a small equipment investment, and I do mean really small, maybe two, if you have a small office, maybe 2 air purifiers in different ends would circle, the whole office, every 40 minutes you'd have fresh air. That kind of thing could be really, really interesting, especially when you do layers of protection with maybe a face mask during cold season, the standard issue for employees, the hand press on the wall with the sanitizer. I think some of those equipment decisions can be pretty affordable, but can make a small difference at least.
Yeah, and for a totally different sector of business, I just had the thought in my mind is for something that's like a fast food chain, and again, maybe for them, their budget, they may have to spend a little bit different because of the volume of customers. But the one thing that was coming to my mind, if you have a two-way swinging door to where I don't have to reach out and touch that door handle or doorknob, that would go huge ways, because then I could come in and just grab what, I don't eat a lot of fast food anyways, but if I did, now I don't have to touch anything. I don't have to worry about wearing gloves and this and that and other. I can literally come in and out and just be on my own. And so those are just some things. Again, if you're in a smaller office or maybe a small to mid-sized office, maybe you're changing out doorknobs and going from knobs to handles. That way I can push down with my elbow, but again, some of that is just getting feedback from your team, before you start going too crazy.
I think that's great. Yeah. A combination of feedback and, just thoughtful, high leverage things. What's the low hanging fruit where I can spend $1 and get, $5 worth of cleanliness out of it. So I think, I don't know that I have anything else. Any final thoughts on your side, Beastmode?
No, I know, again, you mentioned it several times. So this is not an all-inclusive one-stop shop. These are just several ideas that me and Howie have just been back and forth and on. And so we just hope that this spurs a conversation on. And so we continue to put this content out there because we know that it's sought after, and that we know that it's growing. And so please continue to follow us on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else. And then again, we always love your comments and feedbacks and just different comments. They're truly wonderful. We do read them personally and respond back personally.
Awesome. Well, good luck, guys, with your return to work, and definitely stay safe and Beastmode, and always enjoy it.
Me too. Thank you so much, Howie. Look forward to speaking with you next week.
Thanks.
All right, man.